He is a terrorist. He was making chemical bombs in his flat in Ukraine. And prior to when he came to England, this Nazi shook the hands of the British ambassador before he came to the United Kingdom on a work placement in a Muslim area where we live in Small Heath. And he was given a work placement in a country where he wanted to start a race war, as he said in his police interview.
A murder was committed on the basis of racial hatred.
And he actually was making chemical bombs in his flat. And then there's also videos of him making bombs in the forest. So he was a known Nazi, and he was allowed into this country. So where was the Schedule 7? Where was the counter-terrorism bill when it comes to neo-Nazis? Because all I can see is Schedule 7, the counter-terrorism bill, and prevent, criminalize ordinary Muslims. And this is something, we need to challenge the government on. And what I am pushing for is for a definition of Islamophobia for the government to adopt.
Islamophobia, acts of terrorism, and hate against different minorities needs to stop. I am Mohammed Saleem.
My name is Maz Saleem. I'm an anti-racist, anti-war campaigner, and I'm the daughter of the late Haji Mohammed Saleem, who was brutally murdered in an Islamophobic terrorist attack in Birmingham, United Kingdom in 2013 by a neo-Nazi terrorist and mosque bomber called Pavlo Lapshyn. The I Am Mohammed Saleem campaign is to highlight racism and Islamophobia, is to push the government to adopt a definition of Islamophobia in the UK. Muslims are enduring intense discrimination in everyday life through government policy, through institutional, through systemic racism, through street level attacks. And we need to have a definition of what Islamophobia is and what these victims are going through. Basically, the government in the UK has rejected the definition of Islamophobia, not only by the APBG, also by the Islamic Human Rights Commission, who many years before the APBG had a really good definition of Islamophobia. It's been rejected, and for us, it is insulting, because how do I talk about my father's Islamophobic terrorist attack? How do Muslim sisters who are getting attacked on UK streets, being pushed in front of buses because they're visible wearing hijab and niqab, how do they describe their attack if we don't have a definition of what this hate crime is? It's an Islamophobic hate crime. People are solely being attacked and killed, in the case of my father, in the case of Makram Ali, who was murdered on UK streets in the Finsbury Park terrorist attack in 2017.
Because I was subject to many Islamophobic attacks myself and my mosque, Finsbury Park Mosque, I am Mohammed Saleem. Because we shouldn't allow normalizing Islamophobia in our society by some politicians, media and far right, I am Mohammed Saleem.
The I Am Mohammed Saleem campaign will run through the month of April up until my dad's anniversary on the 29th of April. And I'm asking people to send video footage of their experiences of racism and Islamophobia. From this, we are highlighting what is going on our streets today. We cannot ignore it anymore.
Racism and acts of violence against Muslims, against blacks, against all Asians and all other races, all minorities, needs to stop. I am Mohammed Saleem.
On the 29th of April 2030, my father, my beautiful father, was going to prayers. He's on his way for his Isha prayers. And on the way back from Isha prayers, he was followed home by a neo-Nazi terrorist. He followed my father home and stabbed him brutally from behind 3 times. Then this Nazi went on a 3-month bombing campaign in the West Midlands, and he put bombs outside masjids, mosques in Warsaw, Wolverhampton and Tipton. This was one of the biggest Islamophobic terrorist attacks on UK soil. Yet today, the media, the government, the police haven't recognised it as such. Pavlo Lapshyn was charged under terrorism laws, and yet today, whenever there's an act of terrorism and when it's towards Muslims, it's always biased media reporting. Nazis are described as, lone wolves, he's a terrorist. He's an outright terrorist. He was charged under terrorism laws, and let's recognize it as that. The Christchurch terrorist had the name of my father's killer etched on his gun, because he had loads of names on his who he took inspiration from. And a Ukrainian journalist sent me a message saying, you know, your father's killer's name is etched on his gun. This shows you the mass media, when they report in such a hateful and biased manner, this is how it affects all the way to Australia. My father had 7 children and 5 daughters, and I'm the youngest daughter. He empowered all of us. You know, he wanted all of us to study. He always said education is key, and knowledge is power. And this is what we must remember, because when he came here in 1957 under the Commonwealth program, where Britain was inviting immigrants and migrants to come over from India and Pakistan, all across Africa, around the world, they were inviting us to come here to rebuild the country. So my father was working here at the metalwork factory when he originally came, and then he ended up at the bakery because there weren't very many opportunities. You know, when he came here, he went through a lot of racism, on British streets, but he never let that define him. When we grew up, we had on the masjid walls used to say, "Paki scum, get out of Brum." He would not let us even acknowledge what that said, because he was so proud to be British, what this country had given him an opportunity. And we have to remember, immigration has built this country. Immigrants have nourished and made this country what it is today. And, whether you're Muslim, whether you're Black, white, Jewish, non-Muslim, we're all allowed to seek and work a better life in this country.
I'm mother of Shukri Abdi. I lost my daughter in institutional racism. I am Mohammed Saleem.
We have to fight against racism because it just divides people. We have to challenge this government that is consistently perpetuating a narrative that is against Muslims. Anti-Muslim hatred is rife in the UK. The reason why I'm doing this campaign is to challenge them. We have to challenge it as Muslims, as non-Muslims. We need to join together and challenge this rhetoric because it's wrong. And the work I do today is not for myself, it's for the future generations to come. I don't want them to go through what we went through.